what are the real new ways to get to get accountability out of people?
I think it depends on the company. How big are you? How much can you delegate? How much can like if you're a standard HVAC company, let's say you have an install manager, you have a service manager, you have a sales manager, you have a general manager. Okay, ideally, that's what you'd want, right? And I think to be there, you probably got to be in at least the $7 million range in order to get there.
I just don't always like to have to sell my stuff. Like I know what we do is good, and I don't want to have to always, I hate having to like tell everyone exactly why we're the best. And that's a weird, as a person who's taught a bunch of salespeople, that's a weird place to be. I don't want to have to sell people. Do you know what I mean? I want them to just know. I want them to know why I want them to come in the door hot and ready to buy. Do you know what I'm saying?
If it was so easy. I think they say there's three types of like individuals, right? There's people that need to be shown, once and they kind of get it. There's people that need to get like handheld all the way through. I don't want those people, right? I don't want to coach those people. I don't want to train those people. It's just unfortunate, or they have to get shown every single step. And then there's one that really need just almost no leadership at all, right? So I guess you got to figure out, you can't really pick and choose your customers. You got to hand them off to whoever's going to be the best suited rep for that particular for that particular opportunity.
We're talking about HVAC sales leadership with Everett Lippell of the Sales Tales podcast. And you also do some training, right, Everett?
I do.
We're very excited to have him on. We're going to talk about how the old management style in HVAC sales is dead. It's dead, folks, and I'm sorry. Like, my condolences if your management style matches up what we're talking about with what we're talking about. Something that's crazy to me, and I'm not an HVAC company owner, but I have a prospect, let's say, that's on the phone that's an HVAC company owner or a home service business owner, and they're in the back kind of like yelling at their people or like frustrated, and you can feel it. You can feel that they are almost not in a position of power with people, because the way they're talking to people is like, how when you like yell, you're kind of beta in a certain way. Like if you're that frustrated with your people, you're not in control. So like there's a certain like contrast. And I think to myself, like, and if I've closed that person, I think to myself, yeah, we're just waiting around until they're mad at us. Because if you're that type of person that treats your people that way, you're probably going to treat your vendors that way too. It's like, and you don't have to agree with me, Everett. Like, Everett is a different guy, so we may disagree on some things, but what is up with this old school mindset around management and sales management where people think that they can just like yell at their people or be consistently frustrated with all their people, that they think that's going to work, I guess?
I think most people come from if they're going to be that angry, it's usually because of some sort of unmet expectation where they view the sales team, they view the service team, they view their employees in a certain way, and they should be a certain way, maybe because that's the way they got there and that's the way they did it, right? Now, outside of following the processes of the company, but just on the stylistic perspective, yeah, I think you make a valid point. I don't necessarily know if the old management style is dead, but there's a lot of dead weight out there. There's definitely got to be a changing of the guard at some point in time. There are a lot of managers out there, leaders out there that are losing people all the time, continuously hiring and firing because they simply can't control their temper, or they don't know what to say or how to react or how to act, and they haven't stepped foot, let's say, in a leadership class or a classroom or any sort of personal or self-development in a really long time. And I pride myself on being a student and learning continuously all the time. And I was talking to Doug Wyatt, and we were talking about like an hour a day of just some sort of personal development, just to, sometimes people, they turn to me, they're like, where do you store all this stuff? Like, where, it's just audiobooks and podcasts and listening to people. But yeah, the old guard, should definitely go. And I've been driven out of organizations because of poor leadership. And Tim, let me tell you something. Okay. I may not look at whatever, maybe I do. I'm in my 40s. Okay. And when I started in this business, I worked for this guy. Can I curse, or is this not?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, please.
I worked for this guy. This guy he beat the shit out of me. When I say beat the shit out of me, I'm talking he literally beat the shit. He beat me down so bad, right? And his management style was this old school mentality of like, cut him down, build him back up, beat him down, build him back up. And that, I got to tell you, in today's day and age, millennials, Gen Z, whatever it is, it will not fly, right? Because people want to be a part of something. And I got a phone call. I remember this. I've had a lot of success in this industry in HVAC sales, management, leadership. I've ran multi-million dollar organizations. And let me tell you something. I started this industry. This guy said to me, I never forget this phone call. He called me. I just started. This is 15 years ago. And he goes, let me tell you something. You're in the wrong fucking business. You know that? You're in the wrong business. And here I am. I had invested all this time, months of training and trying to learn the business and classroom and ride-alongs and all this kind of stuff. And I went 0 for 11. My first 11 sales call. I went 0 for 11. I ended up being, I got plaques on the walls. I ended up being one of the top sales reps years and years. Okay, a decade of it. And he beat the shit out of me and scared me. I was really scared. But let me tell you something. I picked myself up. I walked into his office. Now I'm from I got half a foot old school, half a foot new school. Okay. So I see it from both directions. I see the old guard and I see the new talented guys coming in, the young guys coming in. And I'll tell you, I think these old guys thought, the way you have to do it is you got to beat these guys up and you got to put them in their place. And I'm not saying I don't believe in accountability. I'm just saying there's a better way to do it. I walked straight into his office and I said, hey, man, guess what? I'm not going anywhere. I'm here and I'm going to do this. And I did. And I got like a Circle of Champions award that year and ended up, first year out, got like a plaque and an award and all this kind of stuff. And it was really cool. And that was a long time ago. But I think as we've progressed here and now we've got so much that has happened, especially on the marketing side of things, how we obtain business, how we coach our people, the resources that are out there. Like back in the day, I worked for a company that is now $100 million business. Okay. That had like 4 reviews online when I started. There's 4,000 now, maybe more, maybe 5,000, either way. Just think about that. In that short period of time, things changed dramatically. And also the systemization of businesses. It used to be, okay, you had Nexstar, you had SGI, you had these business groups, you could sign up, be a franchise with Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, or you could sign up with a franchise with SGI. Clockwork, and you could become a 1 hour and you could learn all these processes that they teach at these practice groups. And that was the only way really you could get it. And now, not to say those groups have an incredible amount of influence and power, but now you go online, you can literally, you can self-teach yourself how to run one of these businesses if you shut up long enough to learn. So yes, I think things have sort of changed.
So I'd like to kind of pick your brain on and draw out a picture of what the ideal and new sales management style in HVAC looks like. But first, I want to tell one more cautionary tale to really this is why you should be listening. And this isn't from a home service business. This is my brother. But same exact principles apply. He had a guy with him for 15 years. They were close. He wasn't an owner of the business, but he was very crucial person in his company. And my brother, and I think he wouldn't even mind me sharing this, and he's not going to watch this. But he lost his temper a number of times. And at a certain point, this person said, you know what? Not doing it anymore. It was a very lucrative job, super lucrative, but that person just said, that's not how I want to live. And they were friends too. And that's something that happens in these businesses. You don't have to, you could have a family atmosphere. You could have a lot of things going right on culture, but if you don't do personal development and if you don't treat these people like, they don't have equity, dude. Okay. So, when there's a difference between you've got a business, you do well financially. They get paid a lot of money. A lot of these people, the critical people in your business, get paid a lot of money. Some of your best HVAC techs probably do pretty well. Some of your best HVAC salespeople do pretty well. But at the end of the day, they can leave. You're stuck with that motherfucking business, okay? If you own that business, or if you're a manager where you're not leaving and you're going to be teaching, and you're in that business, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't necessarily count the cost before they lose it. So my brother, and to segue into this future, I think that we can outline with Everett, is like he's now spending it's one Monday a month training, and it's like borderline therapy, this training that he's doing. He's trying to like get some of his bullshit out on the table, and he's taking it very, very seriously, to the point where every once in a while I'm like, brother, you're a little soft. I love you, but no, he's great. But it's really actually like him facing his demons and getting better, in leadership training. So like there's a certain amount of like, I know a lot of people feel like they don't need to do that because the business of heating and air has been good to you. But you may need to do some leadership training if you're going to really have some people under. It's not even generational. It's age brackets. Because you were like this back in the day. Think about it. When you were 20 to 35, when you were 20 to 30, 35, like, did you want authoritarianism for whoever was leading you? Like, it's just, to me, it's like ages. So Everett, what are the real new ways to get accountability out of people if we can't be authoritarian?
Your origin. Let me just. I want to touch on this because it's very personal to me. Can I tell you a personal story?
Yes, sir.
So, I took a business opportunity that didn't work out, and it was the most painful experience I've ever been through in my life, ever, with the exception of funerals, right? I mean, it was extremely difficult. I had taken an opportunity, and I think that the owner of the business had just that, right? Exactly what you're talking about with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
When you own the business and it's your baby, and you have a way that you believe that things should be, and you have your own ideas, and then your dream is to bring people in who are smart, that can do things, that you can delegate responsibility to, but then you don't actually really relinquish any of that control, and you view anything that anybody else does, not just me, other people in the organization, and you view those people as not meeting your expectations, or not working in a certain way, or not doing something a certain way. It's a recipe for failure. And you've seen this a lot. I've seen this a lot with small business owners, especially in the HVAC and home services field, right? Because most of these companies start out really small, and these companies were blood, sweat, and tears of these business owners. I know a business owner that sold his company, and it wasn't not a huge company. He sold his company to kind of a smaller roll up, and the guy every day he still works for the company as like a general manager. He can't handle it. He cannot handle it. He can't handle relinquishing, he got the paycheck, right? He got the check, right? But he can't relinquish the control. He can't let it go. And so I've been there. I've been on the other side of it, having the ideas, having the, the understanding, and trying to build and help things go, and not being able to do that, and being hamstrung. And, I wish that there was a way, but when you're talking about, in a lot of cases, millions of dollars, in a lot of cases, these people don't want to really relinquish the control. And so I know people that have pushed away a lot of talented people, and have pushed away a lot of talented sales reps, service reps, employees, customer service reps, ticked people off, drove people across the country. I mean, literally, people just wanting to up and leave, not even want to be in the same market as these companies. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where these roll-ups will come in, and, then they try to install their processes and everything else. And, they, again, good intentions, and, the previous business owner just doesn't want to have it happen. So it's very difficult. And also, I think the style of management that you employ, going back to your actual question, which was, well, what's the appropriate, management style? I think it depends on the company. How big are you? How much can you delegate? How much can if you're a standard HVAC company, let's say you have an install manager, you have a service manager, you have a sales manager, You have a general manager. Okay, ideally, that's what you'd want, right? And I think to be there, you probably got to be in at least the $7 million range in order to get there. I think that the proper if you want to have a proper
Say
manager,
those one more time slower.
a service manager, a sales manager. Well, hold on. An install manager and a service manager those are two. Sometimes if you're a little smaller, the service manager and the install manager are going to be the same guy. Service manager, install manager, general manager. You really want a general manager. A lot of times the owner will wear this hat most of the time. And then, ideally you'd want a sales manager in there, and a customer service manager really is what you really want. You really want that's your team. And once you get a little bit bigger, now you've got more operations and fleet management and inventory and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the times depending on how big you are, you're going to wear a lot of those hats. And I've seen it both ways. I've seen highly systemized companies like ARS, and there's a formula, right? It's that, pretty much every branch has a sales manager, every branch has a service manager, every branch has a general manager, an install manager, and then, some sort of CSR minded people. And even within your CSR department, you are going to want, maybe you have people that are dedicated just to be sales coordinators who are they're legitimately booking sales calls. And then you have your standard CSRs and dispatch. And sometimes your dispatch and your CSRs are fragmented, and you don't have that as the same role. The larger you get, the more you can actually delegate that responsibility to more than one person. And there's large scale companies that now have not just a sales manager, but you've got a call by call manager who's sitting, a senior tech or a senior sales rep who's sitting behind a desk.
Have you seen these? I'm almost feeling like respectfully, companies of this size almost are less likely to. And I'm asking, are they less likely to have these like bad management issues, or does it happen at these levels?
Still a lot of money chasing these transactions. There's still really good outcomes out there for sellers. It's good to have someone like us in your corner because we're not emotional, but guess what? When you're selling your business, it becomes emotional, and so it's really good to have an intermediary, there every step of the way. www.sfpadvisors.com. All the contact information is directly on the website.
Are you saying are smaller companies more inclined to have bad managers?
Yes.
Yes, but here's the reason. This is my belief. My belief is the reason why is because you do have them wearing, in most of the cases, you have them wearing a player coach hat. So your service manager will still be out there doing service calls with your guys half the time. Your sales manager will be out there running sales calls, not just ride-alongs, not just managing. And I've read a lot of books on management and listened to a lot of audiobooks on management. And ideally, that it's a real world, so it happens. But ideally, you don't want to have a player coach. I mean, imagine having a manager also playing in the baseball game, which has happened, and it's a disaster, right? Your manager manages. But with small companies that really can't afford it, they want to bring on a heavy sales-minded person. Usually, prior to that $10 million mark, they typically are going to wear both hats. They're going to be a player coach. And I think that a lot of issues happen. In fact, I know a company right now in my old market that I'm from that has a player coach. That player who also is the coach is like one of the top sales reps in like the country. I think he did like $5 or $6 million or $7 million last year. And so you have a guy who's actually eating up all the opportunities for his team. And so you'll get a resentful team they're being coached by a guy who's taking their opportunities of what they're hired for. But
honestly, that's one reason that I personally have been trying not to sell in certain ways is because I've got 2 salespeople and we don't have unlimited prospects. So I would like those people to get those reps. Even if they fail at them, I need them to get those reps. And I also want to just like, I'm trying to specialize in running a company, but in my business, we can do it a little bit. I do want to I want to get us into this solution-oriented mindset because we've talked about the problem a lot. Talk to me about the management style that resonates with this current group of people that are coming into the industry.
Well, we all know that tradesmen are a hot commodity right? There's not enough. So the job pool out there, the amount of technicians available for the amount of jobs available, there's more jobs available than there are technicians available. So what does that say? What's the solution? Make your place really cool, right? Do things that other companies don't want to do, right? Step outside of the box. And that doesn't mean just step outside the box and put some mission statements on the wall and then not live it, eat it, and breathe it, but be somewhere where, you know, people would fall on their sword. Look, there's this phrase, it's like, train your people so that they can go work anywhere, but that they don't want to go anywhere, right? So invest in your people. And I've seen it happen. I've seen a good friend of mine who actually owns a coaching and training company dump a tremendous amount of money into training for one of his employees. And then, you know, he came back from training and actually said this to me. He's like, I bet you he's going to come back from training. He's going to leave. But he didn't, but it wasn't because he didn't love where he was at. It was just where the company was at the time. But it was interesting, but he invested in the employee anyway, because that was the philosophy. The philosophy was, hey, let me invest in these people. Let me invest in their training. And I've run a sales team of I'm talking highly skilled salespeople who have had no formal sales training. None. How is a guy that's been in the industry for 10 years with major outfits, and this is, let me tell you something, major outfits, how have they not had a manager or a coach or sales training company come in and dump some money into training these guys? It's bonkers to me. How can you sit in your seat as a sales manager or a and not actually invest in your guys? What are you doing? If that's not what you're doing, right, then what are you doing? And so I think that, yes, I think that there is an old school mentality, Tim. I think there is an old school mentality to bridge the gap, right? I think there's an old school mentality that, you know, well, they should know that, you know, well, let them do it. Yeah, they'll figure it out. Well, yeah, but, you know, and I'm not saying I want a guy who I have to handhold, but I sure as heck can, whenever I had to make a fire, okay, I had to ask myself, did I fail this person or did this person fail me? But I think the inclination of the old guard is, you know what? They don't care. I mean, that's just my impression, is that they don't care. They don't care. It's, well, they didn't figure it out. Well, you know, so long. Well, they could, you know, well, they suck. And it's like, hey man, did you fail that guy? Or did that guy fail you? Why don't you look at what you could have done better? And I know some new school guys, actually, I have a buddy of mine who runs a $90 million organization, one of my closest friends in the world, okay? And they might even do $100 million this year. And he's the general manager, and he says the same thing. Whenever he has an employee that he's having an issue with or something's going on, he has that mentality. Did I fail this person? Or did this person fail themselves, right? And you have to look at that chart. You have to look, there's this quadrant chart. I'm sure you've seen it before. And the quadrant chart really says, right, is this person able? Is this person willing? Are they high skill, low skill, right? Like, are they good attitude? Or do they not have a good attitude? I'll tell you what, there's a lot of high skilled people out there that have bad attitudes. I don't want them on my team. I don't want high skill guys that are going to break the morale of my organization on my team. Now, I'm going to do everything I can to turn that guy around, right? To get him into the fold, but I want high skill, high attitude. So I think the solution here is for managers to have their finger on the pulse of, okay, who's in my organization that I have that's high skill, high attitude, low skill, low attitude. Look at these things and how can I coach them up or coach them out? But the key there is to actually have meaningful coaching, not just kick them to the curb, not just, oh, this old school mentality, oh, yeah, F this guy or whatever it is, right? Oh, I can just rehire it. I got a stack of resumes on my desk. I don't need you, right? This I don't need you mentality. I think, you know, if that's the kind of team you're going to build, well, then if your attitude is that your people are disposable, well, guess what? You're disposable. You're disposable. Then they're going to go work somewhere else that appreciates you. And one other thing, Tim, let me tell you something. There's a company here in the Metroplex, in DFW, okay, that has a guy on staff here that is a dream manager that manages their employees' expectations, dreams, goals, and everything, and helps them to get to that point. What an incredible role. What an incredible what an incredible idea to employ. And, you know, there's practice groups out there, and I'll give a shout out. You know, I'll tell you, I was a member of Nexstar for a while, and they do a lot of training on this. And one of the most meaningful trainings I've actually ever sat through, it was like a 3 or 4 day thing. I forget, it was a whole disc thing. It was a management training, and my goodness, it's important. And so if you're going to be a manager in today's day and age, then yeah, sharpen the saw, right? One of the seven, what is it? The 7 habits of highly effective people, right? Sharpen the saw, self-development, grow yourself so you can grow your teams. You grow yourself, you can then share that with your teams.
I do think like if you're getting maybe the hunger to change your attitude about leadership, if you've had the old attitude, which you probably didn't watch this if you did, but it is a great way to continue diving in. That book, The Dream Manager, love that book personally. We have that framework as kind of central to our management style. And literally this morning, or actually Sunday, I was working on Sunday because I got a lot of shit going on. We just, right before this podcast, just closed on this Airbnb, and I walked in for the first time, like to a new spot in Austin, Texas here. So I'm so excited. But then I ran back here to do a couple podcasts. But I'm excited to get that set up here in a second. But I don't have that much time this week for leadership. I kind of did all my marketing stuff, wrote all my stuff on Sunday, and like prepared a little bit for my meetings with my direct reports on Monday. And I did I'm going Dream Manager route. So I have and this was directly from Andy, or is actually the Hobayaka Services Group. Somebody on their manager was talking to me about this. He basically was like, if you don't know your people's why and their real personal goals, you shouldn't be managing them. So I took that as a direct like call out to me. And I went back to everybody on my team and I said, all right, I spent a half an hour with them talking about their why, their personal why, and what their real goals were outside of work. And I have a note on my phone and my computer that I could, Apple product or whatever, and I can look at it. And so I prepared like 2 or 3 questions, even though I only had like 10, 15 minutes with each one of them on Monday, because I have a bunch of stuff and I'm traveling out to Sacramento here in a second, but tomorrow to be with Fat Cheeto and Joseph.
Yeah. I saw that. I had Fat Cheeto on my podcast. He's an interesting guy.
And so anyways, so I spent those 15 minutes. I came up with like 3 questions to be like, so how are you doing on that goal? And how can what you're doing at work like play into that goal? You know what I mean? So like, what is your big why and personal goal? And how can and then I just kind of like asked a little bit more questions, and they get excited. It's crazy how excited people get.
Yeah. Well,
the old carrot and the what is it? The carrot and the stick.
Carrot and stick.
The stick just doesn't work as well these days.
No.
And I don't know if it ever did, but it doesn't work as well. So I'm sitting there with the carrot that they talked about, that they wanted, and how can I help you get this carrot that you wanted? And then I try to help them for real, and they hear that I care, and now we're building that into everything. So I love doing these office tours because I get real shit that I bring back to my team.
Yeah, you're vested in with them. Last year I had training with my guys, and I had them all we all went around the room. Everybody was open forum, and one by one we all went down, and one thing that we needed to improve upon, one thing that we wanted to accomplish. And then I had everybody write it down. I said, and actually there was a private thing. I said, write it down, close it up, and put it in your wallet, put it in your pocket, and I want, we're going to revisit this. Right, we put a time frame on. We're going to revisit this, and we're going to see how close you got to that. Actually, it might have been around New Year's, because I do believe I'm one of those people. I actually do believe in New Year's resolutions.
I love New Year's, dude.
In fact, my New Year's resolution was actually to start the podcast, and within 7.5 months now, I can't even believe the amount of engagement that I've had, and I'm so happy that I made it my goal.
Talk to me more about your podcast, man. What are you learning? What is this giving you as a professional?
There's a thread through many of the stories that are being told, and we share this thread of experiences that we have and what people view as being crazy, outlandish sales or service calls that they've ran. So the people that I talk to, a lot of times, hoarders always come up. Hoarders is a big one, like going into hoarders' houses, and meaningful circumstances. And one thing that I think that my intentionality on starting it was the fact that there are a lot of business building podcasts out there, and I'm a part of them. I've done interviews on them. I just wanted to get to the human element of it. I wanted to get to the non-professional element of it. I wanted to get to the personal side of it and wanted to hear people's stories. And I've learned so much by listening to people and their journey, really about their journey. And I think there's not enough out there about people's journey of how they got to where they are sometimes, and hearing those stories from guys like Micah Gugliaro. I have Tommy Mello coming on, and Billy Stevens, even Mr. Fat Cheeto. That was weird. He broke his arm. He fell off of a truck filming a video, a TikTok with his daughter, and he broke his arm.
Yeah.
And then he just decided to do these videos, and then the next thing you knew, it took off, which is pretty crazy. Jennifer had the best stories.
What is the podcast called again?
Sales Tales. It's actually called Sales Tales Podcast. So I was in this house, and so we've kind of got away from it a little bit. But you should start with, when you tell a story like, okay, so I was in this house. Like every story you ever hear from a service tech or a sales rep, it's always, so I was in this house, and so learned a lot of different areas. Amazing amount of people that don't wear much during their when they have a service or a sales rep going to their house. Very interesting.
Oh yeah.
I also
I've experienced a little bit of that. I used to be a pool boy, so that was fun.
Yeah, you look like you'd be a pool boy.
Thanks.
There's a
I don't know what is a pool boy. Apparently,
I don't know.
The guy who looks like he'd be a pool boy is right here.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. Yeah. Jennifer Manzo had some really interesting HVAC chicks. Had some interesting, because she's a woman, and very much one of the most incredibly adept people technically, and her stories were phenomenal. Her stories were because one of the most popular reels I have on like TikTok or whatever is one where somebody had her come. She came by, she fixed it. They actually called the office and said, "I want you to refund me my money or have somebody else do this repair." And said, "I'm not paying for her." And they were like, "I don't understand. Did she fix the problem?" Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm not going to be belittled. And it was a very strange call. And she has to deal with this dichotomy of being a woman in the trades. And so every time she goes to a building or a house, she has to, like, the individual, the business owner has to do a double take where it's like, wait a minute. Because you just assume in your head you have a visualization of what a service tech or what a service tech or a plumber is going to look like.
So what's the best place to listen to the podcast? Like where do you get the most listens from? Are people doing this on iTunes?
Sadly, Facebook. Unfortunately, because I live stream, so most of my views are on Facebook. I link it on my personal page. I link it on my regular podcast page. I'm also on just the regular platforms. Like I'm Spotify, Amazon,
Spotify guy,
Apple Podcasts. I didn't want to do a live stream. I didn't want to do a video. I didn't want to video it at all. I just wanted audio. And now, with understanding how people are ingesting their media now, it just made sense to do it as a video. And then it kind of snowballed into a live cast. And now the live cast gets a tremendous amount of interaction. So it becomes a little more interesting when you have a live stream going and you get a chat bar going. And I mean, geez, the other day I had probably close to 150, 150 different comments, people, whatever it was. So it's kind of taken a mind of its own. I enjoy it.
Hey there, are you a home service business owner that's tired of your answering service just kicking the can down the road? Well, we can help. Pink Collars will assign a dedicated, supported, and trained individual to answer your phones, emails, texts, and even more. Give us a call at 888-325-7465, or better yet, check us out online, www.pinkcollars.com.
I want to do a little bit of a rapid fire with you to wrap up the episode. Hot takes and cold trends. So what's a controversial opinion that you have about the industry? And then what's something that's basically you think people should stop wasting time, money, energy, or effort on? So the first one, what's a hot take you have in the industry? Just be real with me, brother. Just pretend we're just here alone.
My hot take is that the human element's going to win out. I do. I think so. I think that AI and all this kind of stuff, it's all in there. It's all in there. But I think at the end of the day, I think that maybe how people book is going to be different, right? It's happening. How people find you is going to be different. But I still think that we are so deprived of human connection in a lot of ways. We're so connected and we're so disconnected. I think that the companies that are going to be just awesome from a human standpoint, just doing amazing things, I think that that's going to win out over all of the technical advances that you could possibly do. I think that the human element's going to win out. I think people are going to say, that's my guy, and I'm going to call my guy in here, and my guy's going to take care of this. That's what I think. And it's unpopular.
One quick side note on that. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying it's unpopular. It's an unpopular belief.
One quick side note on that is like I know it's kind of unrelated, but I want to say it anyway. It's like there's, we're talking about followers and likes and all that shit with podcasts, but like I was just hanging out with somebody who has like 100, I said 100 million, 100,000, just like followers on Instagram. And I was like, the first thing I thought, my friend that I was with was like, wow, that's so cool. That's so interesting. And I'm like, curse. But I asked, I'm like, so what is like your community like? Like, how are your, like, what's your friend group? Like, I'm always curious about like community. Like how's your community? Because if you're, none of this shit matters. I don't know. I'm pretty sure most people know that, but I hate to break it to you. You could get 100,000 followers on Instagram. And this person said, I don't really have much of a community, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I ask people that now, like whether they have a lot of clout on the internet or not. I don't care. I'm curious. Like I want to know more about people's community. I'm not judging that person.
I have the opposite. I have a good community. I don't have as many followers as I'd actually like.
Yeah.
So I have a great following, loyal.
Yeah.
I mean, people week in, week out comment, post, are in the live watching. But I have a good community. I don't have enough. I need volume.
Yeah. You work on that, but just to know that what you have is incredibly valuable. And I think we just all have to remember that. The community is what matters the most. Like, I hate to go deep on this, but my mom just passed away. And the community that showed up for her at her funeral, and I mean, she died young, so that's an advantage in these types of things, apparently. But like a lot of people showed up for her and talked about how she was kind to them on a personal level, whether they had, they're important or not. Like she cared about them. And so to me, and a funeral will do that to you, right? Like really make you reevaluate your life. And like, how can I make that community and treat each person I meet with more like you're important, And I think that's what I'm after. And I think like, dude, some of this internet shit is bullshit. So that's my hot take for the day.
Yeah. We live in a fake world.
Yeah.
You're right. Dude, I couldn't agree with you more, actually.
Yeah.
We live in a world that's so superficial, and you're right. It's everybody's pounding their chest, and then it's like, what do you see? And then what's the reality? And actually, I think that's why I kind of love the podcast. I've said this 100 times in the podcast. I say this kind of a diary for me. It's kind of an outlet for me. When I'm on there and I'm interviewing somebody and I've got an audience, and I try to be as real as possible. So, I've been vulnerable, for sure, but that's my hot take. My hot take is that I think that human element, I think there's going to be tons of inventive and incredible things that are already being employed. I just think that at the end of the day, I think that you cannot build a sustainable. You can build a sustainable process, right? I don't know if you can build a sustainable community, right? A community, a company that is a community, right?
Well,
a clientele base that's a community.
Yeah. If you think about the clientele, this is one we can riff on for a second, but I'll just say like, word of mouth. Like I'm a marketing guy, dude. And I believe in getting more leads from Google and all these places. And I teach people about social media when I can and whatnot. But we all know referrals close at the highest rate. Everything we can do on that. And I mean, we're talking about the human element over here, and you need a community. And that's, if you're not, try to get in with somebody. It's more important than the internet shit. On the other side, with business, leads happen when you're nice to people and when you care about them and when you do the right thing for their home, right? Like, and word of mouth is the best shit, dude. It's the best shit. Word of mouth. What is that?
There's no
It's
greater
like,
business than a referral. There's no greater type of marketing than a referral. There's companies that you've never heard of that are doing millions of dollars a year that never have not spent a dollar on marketing.
Mm-hmm. Now, don't tell anyone that. No, I'm just kidding. All right, the last one. No, that is good. I like it. Dude, it's crazy in roofing. Like, and I talk about roofing a lot because we have a lot more clients over there. But there's door knocking companies that do $100 million, dude.
Yeah,
that's a different world. That's a whole different like boots on the ground style. But like,
it works.
Yeah, it's crazy that there's less of that in the HVAC in a way. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to popularize it because I like Google marketing, but it is crazy that there's not more of it. I know that there's people trying to push into that now, but last question for you. What's something people are wasting time, money, energy, or effort on that they should stop? So cold trends.
Flashy shit. Like, you don't need that. You don't need it. You don't need, right? Like, I need the greatest building you've ever seen in your whole life. I need to have a fleet of trucks that's so shiny that the sun gleams off of them. Like, okay, yes, get functional things, right? It doesn't have to be, because later on, when you look at your P&L and you're like, oh, wait a minute here. We're in the red. What the heck happened here? I'm like, oh, you bought a $150,000 vehicle. Like, you didn't have to, and there's a lot of flash. Now, I'm not saying, listen, if you got, FU money, sure, go ahead and get it. But I think these guys put the cart before the horse sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. They have a little success and then all of a sudden like, oh man, I need a dually. I'm gonna go get a dually. Like, dude, you're not even gonna use it, bro. What are you gonna go get $100,000 car for what? For truck? I mean, come on. Is it? I mean, anyway, that's
good.
I've got a $4,000 pair of shoes I bought. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I like it, man. All right. Well, I want to give you one last chance, whatever you want to plug here at the end. How can people get in touch with you? What would you like to share?
So for years now, I've done coaching and training, in this house coaching. I have I actually moved my model to a monthly model. So one of the biggest things is, listen, there's training organizations out there that are wonderful. There's coaching organizations that are wonderful. One thing that's lacking in the way that I learned the most was what are called post-call autopsies. And this is like when I called like another buddy who was in the industry, who is smart and good, and I could take 15 minutes with him, tell him what happened on that call, and he would be like, hey, did you try this? Or did you try that? Or give me a strategy. Or, hey, what happened in your process here? And the problem is that, I think that larger organizations that have sales management teams can sometimes do that. It gets lost on them. But smaller companies typically don't get that chance. So I've offered my service. I could do post-call autopsies. I have one-on-ones and post-call autopsies that I'm doing, and I have private clientele. I've structured this in a monthly basis, so literally you don't even feel it on the bottom line, and you've got yourself a sales coach. It's basically a virtual sales coach model. I literally take 15 to 20 minute phone calls. Hey, what happened on that call? What did you do well? What didn't go well? Did you try this strategy? What can we improve upon? And so those small touch points with a team can really, really help. Now, obviously, there's other facets of my coaching, but that's the actual core. That's the actual core of what I offer and what I'm strongest at. And so, yes, I want people to watch the podcast, Sales Podcast, but I'd also love to gravitate people towards the fact that I'm offering myself, if I have to grow my team, I will, but I'm offering myself personally as a virtual business and sales coach just to help guys out in the field that you can't always have every conversation. I've structured, like I said.
Are you wanting to grow that business?
Oh, yeah. I've already got it mapped out. I am, in fact, I have a network of people that are on board with this. I've talked to somebody who's literally springboarding a $600 million company right now. He's going to be a gazillionaire in a couple of months, and he absolutely loves this idea. So this to me is how I'm going to go ahead.
I have no doubt that you'll grow it as big as you want to grow it, Everett. I think, as my dad told me when I went out on my own, he said, dude, in 9 months, he didn't say dude, he said in 9 months, you are going to have more business than you know what to do with. And the hardest part will just be getting all the people to handle it. And that was the coolest thing my dad's probably ever said to me.
That's awesome.
And he was right. And I was trying to hire. So I wish you that for this project if you want it. And I think
Thank you, sir.
You'll have it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for granting me with that.
Yeah, I come from a very Christian background, and they say like speak it into existence.
Yeah,
I'm speaking to that. I'm speaking, taking what I like out of it. I'm speaking that into existence
Love
for
it.
you.
Love it,
bro. I appreciate you being on. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man.
Hey.